The forest has a way of swallowing things. It takes the noise of the city, the hum of a phone, the very light of the sun, and makes them disappear. But some things that vanish leave a different kind of silence behind. The kind that echoes, that haunts. This is the story of one of those silences. The unsolved mystery of David Scott. Did he simply walk away from his life, or did the wilderness finally claim its due? David Scott was an expert. A man who had seen more trails than most people have seen roads. A retired park ranger in his late 50s, he knew the White River National Forest like the back of his hand. It wasn't just a place he worked, it was his sanctuary. On October 12th, he set out for a solo hike, a routine trip he had made dozens of times before. He left a note for his son Mark, a simple "back by Tuesday." That was the last note David would ever write. His hike was a popular but challenging loop, the Devil's Pass Trail to the Silent Creek overlook. He had a small backpack with a few essentials, his compass and a satellite phone which he rarely used. His last confirmed location was a trail camera photo from a remote game warden post, snapped at 10:17 a.m. on Saturday. He was smiling, his face weathered but at peace, a man in his element. When he didn't return by Tuesday night, Mark knew something was wrong. His father was meticulous. He was never late. He called the Park Service, who launched a search party the next morning. The search teams, including his former colleagues, were baffled. David's car was still in the parking lot. His trail was well documented, but at the fork leading to Silent Creek, his footsteps simply ended. Not faded, not covered. They just stopped. No sign of a struggle, no abandoned gear. It was as if a ghost had reached the point and simply evaporated. Search efforts intensified but yielded nothing. They brought in K9 units, but the dogs lost the scent at the exact spot where the footprints disappeared. The media picked up the story and soon the small community was buzzing with theories. Some believed he staged his own disappearance. David was a widower and his son Mark, a struggling artist, had recently had a falling out with him over money. Mark had inherited a large sum from his mother, which David had been holding in a trust. Some speculated David vanished to avoid a legal battle with his own son. But why would an experienced hiker, a man who loved the wilderness, choose to disappear in a place where he could so easily be found? A place he loved more than anything else? It didn't make sense. Others, the locals, spoke of a more sinister truth. They whispered about the Passage. An old story of a secret society, a group of survivalists who believed in total disconnection from the modern world. They were said to live deep in the forest, their existence a well-guarded secret. Could they have taken David? Did they see a man who was too close to their home and decide he had to be silenced? This theory seemed outlandish, but the eerie way David's trail ended felt too neat to be a simple accident. The most chilling theory came from a Park Service veteran. He told investigators that the area where David vanished was known as the Hollow Point, a section of the trail that was a hotspot for strange disappearances. People would get disoriented, walk off the trail and never be seen again. They called it the Hollow Point because it seemed to suck people in, leaving no trace behind. It was almost as if the forest itself was a living thing that decided who stayed and who didn't. Could David, despite all his experience, have fallen victim to the one thing he couldn't predict? Months passed. The case went cold. The trail went cold. The family started to lose hope. Then, 1 year after his father's disappearance, Mark was going through David's belongings when he found something buried in the bottom of an old wooden trunk. It was a small leather-bound journal. The journal wasn't a diary, it was a map. Filled with David's cryptic notes, strange symbols and hand-drawn maps of the very forest where he vanished. The maps had circles, lines, and marks that seemed to indicate something hidden, something secret. The final entry, dated the day before his hike, simply read, "The final piece is at Silent Creek. I'm going to find the passage." Mark's blood ran cold. His father wasn't just on a hike, he was on a mission. He wasn't just a victim, he was a seeker. David wasn't trying to walk away from his life. He was trying to find something he had been searching for his whole life. A secret, a legend, something that had been passed down through whispers and rumors. Mark went back to the trail with the journal. He followed the symbols, the hidden clues, and found himself at the exact spot where his father's footprints ended. He looked around and saw nothing. Just a wall of trees. But then he looked at the journal. He turned it upside down, and the strange symbols on the map revealed a new path, a hidden path that went off the trail through the thicket. It was a path that only a man who knew the forest as well as David could have found. Mark entered the hidden path, but it was too dense, too difficult. He went as far as he could, but it was getting dark and he realized he was in way over his head. The forest had a way of swallowing things. He turned back, the journal clutched tightly in his hand. He had the answers, but he also had a new set of questions. Did David find the passage? Was it what he expected? And if so, why did he never come back? The mystery of David Scott remains unsolved. But now we know he didn't disappear by accident. He wasn't taken by a killer or by a wild animal. He went willingly on a quest for something more. Something that we may never understand. David Scott's story is more than a missing persons case. It's a question about what we are all searching for. What is so important that we would walk away from everything we know to find it? Do some people just get tired of the world and choose to find a different path? Or is there something out there in the quiet places that we don't know about? Sometimes the most chilling truth isn't that a crime was committed, but that there was no crime at all. Just a choice. A man walking into the woods, knowing he might never return and being at peace with that. If this story made you think even for a second, please hit that like button. We're on a mission to bring you stories that challenge and inspire. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. And let us know in the comments below. Do you believe David Scott found the passage, or do you think his story is a warning? We'll see you next time.